Okay, great. We are live. Hello, everyone at HackGT. Thank you so much for coming to our second speaker, Yvonne Dodd. She is a self-described life, business, and career coach who helps work with entrepreneurs, creatives, and career changers to brand themselves authentically and create lives, businesses, and careers they love. We are so excited to have her here today to talk about why authentic branding is important and give us some tips and tricks to help do that. So, for all you inspiring entrepreneurs out there and anyone getting started on your career, this is a great talk to lead you into that. So I'm so excited to welcome Yvonne to the stage.
Thank you so much, Eleanor.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So because I can't see you and can't interact with you, I would love for you to participate as much as possible in the comments. I'm going to go over a few things that I think are really important about crafting an authentic brand and what it means to truly, bring your values and the kind of life you truly want to live into your work and your personal life and your careers. So I want to first talk about a few things, and then I'd love to dive into the Q&A and just answer any types of questions you have, and also get into maybe some tactical strategies and anything that's on your mind as it relates to starting business, running your own business, changing your careers, diving into your careers, and all things personal branding. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to share my screen. Okay. All right. So here we are talking about crafting an authentic brand. So again, my name is Yvonne Dodd. You can find me on LinkedIn and also on Instagram at Evie Says. So Evie is my nickname, and my company name is called EVD Consulting. And yeah, so find me, would love to connect. Make sure you send a message just letting me know where you're from. Tell me you're from the hackathon or from Georgia Tech if you connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure to connect with you. But one thing I want to dive into after Eleanor's like amazing introduction is just I want to talk about a little bit about my background. So, as I'm standing here today, I have over 15 years of experience in the startup world, nonprofit management, and also in corporate. And I have worked with everyone from high level executives to underserved youth and homeless families. And it's really, really important to me. Like, I am super passionate about helping people be their most authentic selves and create lives that they truly like are happy about, where they can be like happy, make a ton of money, be impactful, because I truly believe that miserable people make other people miserable. And so that's how I got involved in all of these things. I also recently, in the past year, right before COVID, decided to dive in and become a yoga and meditation instructor as well, because I truly believe in doing this work from an embodied and holistic approach. And so I not only have run my own business for about 9 years, next year will be the 10-year mark, which I'm super excited about, but I've also been working at General Assembly, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically a tech education company that helps people change their lives and do work they love. I specifically work with UXers, UX designers, data scientists, and software engineers, and help them get careers. So in my career as an entrepreneur, I have worked with increasing revenue by over 50% for 30 plus companies and founders. I've helped create at least 60 to 100 plus jobs. I've also used to run a fundraiser where I was making sure that causes that I cared about were getting the attention they deserve. So I've also worked in raising over $15,000 for causes and bringing people together. And in my work in helping people transition into the tech space, I've helped over 300 grads dive into entry level careers or change their careers at this level into the tech space. The reason why I've been able to do all of these things is because I got really, really serious about what it is that I care about and how I want to show up and truly make an impact. And so it didn't always start from this point. When I was a recent college grad, I was working in family homelessness, basically doing every single thing under the sun, managing a nonprofit. And oftentimes people are like, oh my gosh, nonprofit, that's so noble, right? Like, whatever. It's still like running a business, and there's still like really, really tough things that you have to do. So I was doing every single thing under the sun, really trying to make sure that I was also like applying to grad school. I thought I wanted to go to school for like nonprofit management. I was engaged and I thought like, okay, I got to like do all these things to make sure like I'm going to be eventually with this person and like my life is happening. And I was also trying to make sure that I made good on like the promises like to my family and like for my career. But unfortunately, it was like a really toxic work environment. And so I was working like 70, 80 plus hour weeks doing every single thing under the sun. In 2009, when like the economic like the recession happened, we closed down shelters, laid off half our staff, and they gave me like 5 positions combined into one. And so I was doing everything from like, running our website and volunteer management and office management, financial administration. I was the tech person, I was the facilities person, and just working miracles. And I say all this because oftentimes, maybe many of you in the audience, uh, you are high achieving, you're hardworking, right? You're like making sure you study, making your family proud. Shout out to anyone who's like first generation. My dad's from Ghana. Um, and you're really trying to make sure that you're doing exactly what you should be doing and following the steps that you're supposed to follow. But oftentimes we're not taught things like how do I make sure that I actually feel good in the work that I'm doing, or that the work that I'm doing is right for me. I got to the point with all of this stress, like I was barely eating, I was working too much. I like graduate school was like nowhere in sight because I couldn't even like take the time I needed to do it. Um, and I couldn't even tell you what I wanted or what I needed. And that's not the kind of person I am. And that's not like what I was working for. And so I really had to sit down and be like, what kind of life am I living? I'm only in my early 20s. I have like a whole life to live. I don't want the next 5 years to look like this. And so a lot of the things that I'm talking about, it's like the stuff that is beyond the checklist and the to-do list, right? Like it's not enough to get the degree. It's not enough to like be good at what you're doing. You have to really take care of you as a whole person. And you have to know what it is that's going to make you come alive, right? And there can be lots of things and a variety of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be the career, right? But you've got to know what that spark is inside of you, because that's the thing that's going to affect everyone else around you. That's also the thing that's going to help you make the most impact and really create a life that is fulfilling, right? It's not all about like, oh my gosh, I love every single hour of what I do every day, right? But it's more like, am I content? Am I peaceful? Am I happy? Am I really operating in my strengths so I can make change? So I share that story because it's not like I'm not like over here like, hey, here's how to do branding, here's how to live a great life without having gone through a bunch of trials and tribulations myself. So I was once in a place where I was checking the things off the list and it wasn't quite working. So, moving on. It's really important to first talk about what is branding? And so oftentimes people might say, okay, branding is your website or your logo or that headshot or things like that. And it's really important to understand that while those things are a part of branding identity, the brand is really the accumulation and the sum of the behaviors and actions that evoke emotion. So it's the accumulation of all the things, right? So when someone interacts with uh, your brand or a logo or your website, or when they're in the retail store, or in terms of personal branding, when they're interacting with you, it's the emotions, it's the sum of all the feelings and emotions. And that is what your brand, it's how people feel when they interact with you, or if you become an entrepreneur down the line, your business. So it's really important to understand that oftentimes when people say things like, all right, I'm going to start a business, or, oh, I'm going to go get a job now, the first thing they do is they're like, all right, I got a business plan and a marketing plan. I've got my business cards. I'm ready. Or if you are going for your career, it's oftentimes like, okay, I've got the skills and I've got my resume. I'm applying to jobs. When you don't have a clear brand, it means that you do not understand the story behind who you are. And so oftentimes what happens is you keep getting stonewalled or stopped, or you feel like you're a hamster on a wheel because you're not necessarily comfortable pitching, you're not converting clients, or you're not actually getting the jobs that you keep applying to. And also, when people are coming to you or when you're seeing opportunities, it's really hard for you to understand what is or isn't the right fit. So whether you're an entrepreneur or in the professional world, you could be attracting the wrong clients and the wrong people, um, or not really being able to say, this is what I want and this is what I'm going for. And so it's really, really important to cultivate that. I also think this quote by Robert Kiyosaki is important because he says, the richest people in the world build networks, but everyone else looks for work. And so not only does having a solid brand uh, really help us understand who we are and attract the right opportunities, it also helps us cultivate networks that truly make sense for us, that also create those kinds of opportunities. And I talk a lot about this in another workshop I do called Networking Doesn't Have to Suck. I thought it was important here because if you are selling your business or if you are looking for work, over 80% of jobs are found through networking. And that doesn't mean like, pushing your business card in front of people. It's basically humans talking to humans, right? So whether you are in a hackathon and you're trying to find people to work with in your group, or you're doing a new volunteer thing, or you're going for that new job, or you are wanting to like look for someone to possibly date, whatever it is, people like to work and be with people that they're comfortable with, that they enjoy, or that they're similar to. And so it's really important to remember that it doesn't necessarily matter that like you can do the things. It's crucial that you understand that people want to be around and work with people that are like cool to be around. And that's how we all share um, and create the things that we want to create. So I want to briefly share with you a Simon Sinek video uh, from his TED Talk from a while ago. He wrote this book called Start with Why. So give us a second. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and the HackGT team is going to help me stream this video.
Yes, we'll be on in a second. We love technology. Okay, great. Sweet. This should be it.
I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done. That's how most sales is done. And that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do. We say how we're different or how we better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. Sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right, because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't the other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will anybody How will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal?
Thank you. So I think even though that video is from a while ago and Simon Sinek has gone on to write even greater books than Start With Why, I think it is really such an important message to get back to the core of why people connect with other people and also other brands. And so oftentimes we can get really, really caught up in the thing that we're doing, and we keep focusing on that thing, keep walking around telling people, hey, I do this thing, hey, I do this thing, hey, I do this thing. But that is not what separates us from other people. That's not the differentiator. If you want to understand how you can truly stand out, then really understanding your why and what your unique perspective is what's truly going to make you stand out. So before I dive into those kinds of questions and how to get deep and how to really understand what it means to get to why, I want to jump back into talking through branding and what is truly in a brand. Give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one more time. So in terms of what's in a brand, so we have Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, we've got Beyonce, we've got Sheryl Sandberg, we've got Bruno Mars. Each of these people, when you see them, you may think of the movies that they've done, the art that they've created, the impact Sheryl Sandberg has made in the tech world. The songs may come to mind, but also each of these people, in terms of their personal brands, you know what to expect. And so we don't necessarily expect the things that we would expect from Sheryl Sandberg. We don't necessarily expect the same things from Dwayne Johnson, right? We know that when Dwayne Johnson is going to come, it's going to be something that might be family friendly. It's going to be humorous. It's going to be good natured and good hearted. And if he is joining a cause or something like that, that goes with his brand. We know that in terms of what Sheryl Sandberg might be working on, it'll be inspiring, it'll be innovative, it'll be probably something related to pushing women's issues forward in the tech landscape and things like that. I know now she's getting into small businesses, but it's really important to understand that your brand is a promise. When I engage with you in terms of your personal brand, I expect certain things from it because of a culmination of things in the past over time. And so it's important for me to bring up brand versus image. So I understand Lindsay Lohan and even the movie Mean Girls, right? Like her career has happened over a very long time. I feel like Mean Girls is like over 25 years old or something crazy like that. But I feel like this is a good example for what I'm trying to describe. So initially, you know, okay, this is an actress. Here she is looking professional. Here she is on the red carpet. Okay, that is her image. We see her on the cover of magazines. Oh, look at that fabulous person. Here's a beautiful celebrity. But what's really important to remember and understand is that that's not necessarily what people think when they think of Lindsay Lohan. They remember all of her mugshots and constantly going to jail over drugs and alcohol. And now she's doing really interesting things on, like, I've seen videos of TikTok of her almost stealing someone's child. So just unfortunately, it's really important to understand that you may have an image in a moment of, like, you can go ahead and put on a professional suit. You can be on the cover of a magazine. You can say something really awesome. You can have a good speech, right? You can do something really cool, roll out a really awesome product. But what your brand is almost like a credit score, right? It is how you make people feel over an extended period of time. It's just like, we are all familiar with the brand McDonald's, for example, right? So when McDonald's is like, we have really healthy salads and yogurt parfaits, people who are actually health conscious are giving them the side eye because they're like, yeah, but you're a McDonald's. Like, even your yogurt parfait is going to have it's going to be like 800 calories for no reason, right? And so that's an example of how your brand can actually determine whether or not people engage with you. And if you don't know, your credit score takes like 7 years for things to come off of it. So that's just something to keep in mind. So another thing that I want to bring up before we dive into what it takes to actually get to why, I want to talk about, I'm actually going to stop my screen just for a moment. I want to talk about something called PI. This is the PI theory of success. PI is an acronym, and it stands for performance, image, and exposure. And so this is the thing that I always like to ask people when I'm talking about branding and what it means to put yourself out there or accomplish your goals. And so when it comes to PI and being successful, a researcher found that those people who get promoted or achieve the goals they want to achieve, like when it comes to like getting hired or getting the exposure that they want, only it's a combination of PI, so performance, image, and exposure. Only 10% of it is performance. And when I say performance, it means like actually being able to do the work, right? So if you're a software engineer or a UX designer or a data scientist, right? Like you know how to do Python, you know how to do wireframes and prototypes, like you can do the work, right? That's only 10% of it. Oftentimes, as we get into the career landscape or the so-called real world, and we're actually trying to achieve what we're trying to achieve, we can be in situations where we're like, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard, I'm working my butt off, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and nobody's noticing. It's like they're just taking it for granted. But that is because of the rest of the pie chart, the rest of the equation. Image is 30% and exposure is 60%. Exposure is all about people actually being able to know the work you're doing, the people that you're talking with. This brings back that concept of actually talking to humans about your passions and the work you love and sharing what you're doing. And when people know that and have worked with you and have been around you, you are more likely to be moved on, promoted, and achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. So whether that's being hired, whether that's closing the deal, that is crucial. And then back to image, which is 30%. That is about how you show up, how you carry yourself, your confidence, and being clear and concise in telling your story. And so that gets back to not just being able to do the actual tasks, but also, do you have a clear image and brand in terms of the pieces of who you are? And then are you actually putting yourself out there in a way that matches that brand? Is that combination that leads to success. And so it's really important to keep that in mind, because oftentimes we think that if we just do the thing and like kind of keep our heads down, that like eventually someone will just notice and that will accomplish our goals. But it's really, really, really important to remember that having the confidence, getting out there and putting yourself out there is what can make all the difference. So going back to getting to why, give me 1 second as I share my screen again. So Simon Sinek talks about what it means for people to actually connect with the work that we do. This is what it means to like have a sustainable and continuous path towards achieving the things that you want to achieve. And this is the kind of work that most people tend to skip over, right? So it's really, really common for a startup, for example, to create the product and like do the work and be like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. This is so great. This is so great. And then actually put it out there, and they didn't do any branding work. They don't know how to market it. They didn't talk to the people and really get to understand their audience beforehand. And so it completely flops, and they have to go back to the drawing board because they didn't do all of those things in advance. And so this is about really doing the work that is beneath the surface. So if the actual product or thing that you're putting out is the tip of the iceberg, then what is all of that underneath it that helps you really show up in that beautiful, confident, clear and concise space where somebody's like, yes, I will hire you. Yes, I want to work with you. Yes, I want to date you. I want to date you. So in order to get to the point of a clear brand, it's really important for you to understand, what is your story? What do you want to be known for? What do people feel and say about you? So really to understand your mission and core values. So, it's, for example, it could be like you might have a run club that is like really popular, and they're building a brand and they're growing and they're like great for the community and they're starting to get sponsors and things like that. They're all about community, clean living, taking care of our bodies, right? So like fairness, honesty, health, the environment. So when it comes to making decisions, do they partner with Powerade, or do they partner with an all natural plant-based energy protein shake, right? It could be down to like different decisions like that. Are they going to go with the typical LA Fitness? Or are they going to go with a small boutique local community fitness studio? So this is where those things come into play. And this is where other people can understand whether or not they're going to opt in or opt out of what that brand is doing, right? So this is something that helps people make clear choices about whether or not they want to engage with you, but it also helps you make clear choices about what you're going to be doing next. All right, moving on. So oftentimes people are like, be yourself, right? So this is another thing that it really helps you do. I think it's important for you to truly embrace what I call like a whole self philosophy. Authenticity and integrity equals trust. And then things like visibility and credibility equals profitability, or you getting hired, or you making more money, right, in whatever you're doing. And so it's really important to make sure that you know your values on the authenticity side. And the integrity side is about you actually doing what you say that you're going to do, because that's when people trust you. That's the whole thing about branding. And then that exposure side, that part, that piece that's like 60% of what makes people successful is that visibility and credibility. So like, I'm out here, I'm doing things, you can see that I'm doing things. That credibility piece is like, yes, we love to work with Yvonne, or yes, she does a good job, she does what she says she's going to do, right? Those are like the key components. It's not just about being out here compartmentalizing and not bringing your full self to the table. That's usually where things feel a little bit icky or not aligned. So it's really important, no matter where you are, no matter what stage you're in, it's important to understand these top things. Who are you? Why are you awesome? Who do you serve best? How do you serve? And then eventually, what are people saying about you? And that could be, this is for people that are in the professional world. And it's also really important for businesses as well. And so being able to do the work that communicates each of these things, this is what leads to being able to have the right marketing, have the right design, have the right PR professionals help you spread the word. Or if you are just focusing simply on your personal brand, when you know these things, it is so easy for you to communicate this in your digital presence, perhaps on your LinkedIn, on your Instagram, or on your resumes, on your portfolios, as you're doing the work, people can immediately grasp, okay, this is what this person's about, and this is how this person works for us or doesn't. So in terms of getting to understand your story, it's really important for you to dig deeper than, oh, I'm this person, I go to this school, I come from this kind of family, I live in this place, I wear these clothes, I listen to this music. It's really important for you to dive into what truly makes you you. You can go all the way back to childhood, the things that excited you the most, right? Because all of those things have led you to this path. You could be doing anything else, but you've chosen this, and there are reasons behind it, and that matters. That is where the value is. I will say that when you're doing this kind of work, and why most people avoid it, is because a lot of baggage might come up. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. We might be like, oh, I'm not really that good enough, or can I really say that I'm this kind of person, or am I really that? Um, and so I think it's really important to do this work, because it's an exercise in taking yourself seriously, so that you can show up confidently in any space, just knowing who you are and being grounded in that to help you make better decisions. So understanding what's your reason for being, it's really helpful to understand your mission and your vision in terms of what are your credibility factors, uh, how do you articulate your value, and then even doing things like connecting it to metrics if possible. So really get to the bottom of, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I getting up every morning? And then how do you want to feel? So obviously, I am talking to a tech crowd. And when I start going into, how do you want to feel? What are your feelings? That could get a little uncomfortable. But honestly, this is important, because these are clues to the parts of you that never change. So we always know how we want to feel, that never changes. But the what and the why of what we want to do always changes. So if you get to the core of, like, I want to feel excited, or I want to feel energized, or I want to feel like I made a difference, that is something that can drive you, and then drive your other behaviors and give you clues to what it is that you should be doing and how you can move forward. Another question is about really understanding what your what is. What is it that you offer? What is it that you're really good at? And who do you want to be? Right? So, like, in those skills, in those things, what is it that you want to create? What is it that you want to make sure that you're helping other people achieve, or you're contributing to in your work? And then in terms of your who, it's really important to know who is in your audience. So some people are like, I just want to help people, right? But maybe it's a specific group, and maybe it is about, it could be something like, I really want to focus on these people, or I'm focusing on hiring managers right now, or I'm focusing on people in the analytics world, or I'm focusing on people in accessibility, right? Just really understand, who is it that you're making that impact for? Who is it that you're trying to attract, or you're trying to serve with whatever it is that you're doing? And then it's important to understand, what are their characteristics? Where do they hang out? So that you have that kind of information and can actually tailor your messaging and your materials to that audience. And then understanding what your impact is. Oftentimes when we think of impact, it's like we have to save like 10,000 lives, in a 2-year period. It doesn't have to be that epic or that dramatic, but it's really important to know, what is the result of the kind of life that you want to live. That's what helps you understand who you're being today and what it is that things are leading up to. And so in this exercise of understanding your impact, it doesn't have to be epic again. It could be like, I want to have done this thing for my family. I want to have contributed a small amount to this particular cause, or I want to solve this particular problem. And then lastly, I think it's really important, after diving into this work, remember that nothing is linear. Even though school and college and career stuff can feel really, I put in this, I get this, I did this work, I got the A, I did this work, I got the degree. Nothing after this period is like that. And so this is something that you can start now and then keep adding to, and really building your understanding so that you can make sure that you're in integrity and that you're doing things that are aligned to your values and who you want to be and how you want to be. So there is no rush. Everything that happens is right on time. But if you actually do the work, then you'll be ahead of the game. You'll be able to step into these opportunities in a way that's more clear and more confident. And then you'll actually be able to create that digital presence or that brand or whatever it is that you're trying to do in a way that is authentic and more impactful overall. All right, that's it. And now I'm ready to dive into any questions we have.
Oh, that is very big for me. Okay. Hi. It's so good to be back. I loved the presentation. As someone that's just about to graduate college, that is some very good advice, and I'm excited to put it to work. So people in the chat, definitely type in some more questions. I think we are still on like a 30-second delay. So that might also end up being an issue as people type in questions, but we'll dive into our first one we have in the chat. This is kind of going off of what you talked about with, metrics, and kind of quantifying your products and who you are. He asks, if you were developing a product, do you go to investors before you have all the data and claims proven or after?
Well, it depends on the type of investor. There are some investors that are happy to support an idea, and that goes along with, like, oftentimes investors are investing in the people, right, rather than the thing. However, it is very important to have proof that it actually works. And so I would do as much work as you can to show proof of concept.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Going.
So yeah, so you're saying almost the earlier you invest, the more they're investing into you as a founder instead of necessarily the product you're showing them.
Yes, but
cool.
it kind of like it's important to remember that you still have to have your side of things clear, and you still have to be able to communicate that clearly because you're also selling yourself.
Definitely. That's a good point. Okay, next question comes from someone who submitted it before. So do the brands of the CEO and of face of the company have to align with the brand of the company? Can those be separate? And which one, is more important necessarily if you're kind of doing a startup?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, it's about, do they have to be in sync with each other? I think that the answer would be yes. It doesn't mean that you have to be the face. I think a lot of people are worried about like being in front of the brand, but we put our trust in the people behind things. We're no longer like back in the day, people are like, I buy Tide because I've always bought Tide. We're like, who's behind the company? What are they doing? What do they stand for? Because anytime we engage with something or buy something, it is a reflection of who we are. Right. And so I want to know that the person behind the brand, it has integrity, and is someone who like makes sense for it. So it's like, we might have this amazing and incredible tool that like this great app that I love to use. But if the founder is like some racist, like misogynist, whatever, I'm not using that. So that's an extreme example, but
no, that makes sense. I love the idea of kind of putting your money where your mouth is in that way and supporting things you really support. Okay, so an additional question that came from before is, what would you say are the biggest mistakes people make when trying to brand themselves?
I would say the biggest mistakes is that they haven't done the work on really understanding what their goals are and what their strengths are and why they're doing what they're doing. And so usually people will end up having those questions, or like you can have a great conversation, but it just doesn't quite, like you're not quite gelling with the person, or like
Yeah.
really didn't make that connection because it wasn't straightforward and communicated properly. And I think oftentimes people will like spend like, you know, thousands of dollars working with a designer and spend all their effort on some logo, but it's like, you've got to understand like, what are the colors? What does the audience actually want? What kind of copy really resonates and speaks to them? You know, those kinds of things that you can only figure out if you've done the initial work of understanding your why.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually, my roommate worked for Nike, and she told me this one story where the person who designed the Nike logo was just a college student. But the fact that they knew exactly what they wanted out of the Nike logo, and the fact that they really figured out they wanted it to feel powerful and capture those images, they came up with the swoosh, which is so iconic. So you don't need to hire a multi-million-dollar designer to get that perfect logo if you know what you're looking for.
Exactly. And if you know things like, okay, this is who I am, this is who I serve, like those top 5 things I mentioned, then you, as you just said, Eleanor, you don't have to have a ton of money to create like a professional brand in this moment and then learn the more, right? Till you get to the point where you can finally hire someone because you know so much about your brand. I'm actually in a brand identity conversation right now with a designer, and I've been in business for 9 years. So I was able to tell her exactly what my audience is expecting, how they want to feel and things like that. And she was able to create that. And it was really great because I actually had a former client look at it and they like actually said the words, like the whole everything that me and the designer like worked on.
That's awesome. That's so great. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So another question from beforehand from the form. So, you know, we're computer science majors, so we like metrics, and we like to know, you know, kind of the quantitative data. So do you think there's anything we can look for to know that our branding is working or that we're kind of successfully implementing these practices?
Yeah, so it depends on what your goals are. So for example, you might do the work and like you finally have like your pitch down. So it's like, you know, hi, my name is Yvonne. I'm a life and business coach that's passionate about XYZ and I do blah, 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 right? So it could even be like, are people's eyes glossing over when you say your pitch? Like it could be that kind of simple type of thing. Or it could even be like, okay, when I present this in a certain way to people, if it's a website, are they clicking through? Does my content work where they actually want to click on the thing that says hire me? Does it like, so it's like, it's all of those tiny little metrics that are related to whatever your goal is. So like if it's like on LinkedIn, is it working? It could be the amount of connection requests you're getting would tell you. It could be the amount of opportunities that you're able to get or things like that. Because it's not just, oh, here's the brand, right? Like it's not, you're not like being a billboard, you're actually like engaging with folks. So
Definitely.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, set up some metrics for yourself, some goalposts you want to achieve, and then see if you can hit those. That's a great point. Okay, so this comes from someone in our form we sent out. What if at this point, like especially thinking about college students, it's hard to make their brand stand out because they don't feel like they have many unique involvements and skills. So what do you kind of suggest for someone figuring out what makes them unique or coming up with a brand if they're not really sure what that would look like?
So phone a friend, right? Think
Yeah.
about like who, like just people that are cool, not people that are jerks to you, and just like, what would you say about me? How would you describe me? And then like they're going to say things that you would never think about. I think also think about things like what do people usually come to you for? You know, sometimes maybe people are always coming to you for advice. Maybe they're always coming to you to fix something. Maybe, you know, whatever it is, and start there. Then actually get out there and do some stuff, like do things so that you can figure out, what am I good at? What do I like and what do I not like? Like do volunteer projects, do stuff with a group. Ask yourself what you are constantly gravitating towards. Maybe it's about like the books that you read. Maybe it's how you spend your free time. Maybe it's the articles that you're constantly reading. Like those are the things that you enjoy. Those are your passions. And we usually have strengths in the things that we like to do.
Yeah, that's really cool, which makes sense because people are spending their weekend coding the whole time. So there's obviously some truth in that for our participants as well. Okay, we'll go with one more question. So someone was looking for an example of maybe someone in the tech world that has a really concise brand, and then maybe you could describe what that brand is and then how they kind of used it. You can go back to Sheryl Sandberg if you want.
Yeah,
I know we talked about her
there are a lot of
earlier.
people.
Expand on that.
I think Sheryl Sandberg has been able to leverage her brand in ways of like, you know, even being able to write a book about what it means to be a woman in corporate America or in the tech space. And she's been able to leverage that to get all kinds of other press and other deals. And people look to her as a role model or an expert on those things, or like what Ariana Huffington of the HuffPost, right? Now she's an expert on sleep. She's an expert on all kinds of other things. So she's able to achieve her goals in all of these other aspects as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Okay, I actually realized I have a better final question for you. So people are going to tomorrow pitch their ideas first to judges that will stop by kind of their booth, and then potentially they'll make it to the big stage, which means they'll be live judged by a panel of judges in front of the whole hackathon. So what's some suggestions you have for how we can do a great job marketing both ourselves and our product when we get to the judging portion of the hackathon?
Make sure in your pitch that you don't forget to talk about the actual problem that you're trying to solve and who it's for. Sometimes people just keep going straight to, this is what we did. And so like have a clear story. Like really good storytelling makes all the difference there. And in terms of talking about yourself, stick less to, you know, obviously you may want to mention your major and things like that, but really talk about like something that you care about or like why you chose to do this in the first place. That's a lot more interesting.
That's great advice. That's really awesome. So hopefully everyone wrote that one down and we'll get that ready in their pitch tomorrow. We'll see how much planning people have.
A lot of competitions.
Yes. Yeah, I know. We'll see. Maybe people are spending more time coding. We'll see if we get to the figuring out our whole statement we're going to say for judges, but hopefully everyone can spend a little time after their dev post is submitted to give that some thought. So yes, it's almost 7. So I know everyone is probably excited to get to dinner. So we'll wrap up, but thank you so much, Yvonne, for coming. We absolutely loved what you had to say. And you provided a really unique perspective for us to think about in terms of how we brand ourselves and how we continue into the workplace. So thank you so much for coming to HackGT.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'm happy to send like a worksheet or something after. I'll just send it to you and you can get it out to people to help them answer these questions.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. We also have a feedback form. So I'm going to drop the feedback form in the chat, or Anisha is. And then you guys can if you want to fill that out. Yvonne would love some feedback as how she did and everything like that, so we can know what you thought. Oh, I think it's in the, wait, let me get it in the chat. Okay, there, it should be there now. Okay, perfect. That's all from us. So we're going to end the broadcast, but thanks again and enjoy dinner, everyone.